Hello again, everybody. It's another Federal Tax Update podcast. This is Roger Harris, and as always, I am joined post-October 15th with Annie Schwab. And how are you doing now that another deadline has come and gone?
You know, it's great when the deadlines go, but I feel there's one just right around the corner. I can feel it already. We're already talking about year end, and we're talking about next April and what will happen, and who knows. But I'm doing
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Doing
Yeah. It seems like there's not much break between one year and the next now. One ends and you eat a little turkey, and
good.
next thing you know, it's another tax season.
Absolutely.
Well, we have a very special guest and a friend joining us today. Many of you probably know our guest. You've probably either seen him teaching at IRS forums and other places, seen and heard him at Tax Talk Today, or just run into him around NAEA. We're happy to have Alan Pinck with us from the beautiful Northern California. I want to say wine country, but I don't know how close you actually are to wine country, but you're a lot closer than I am.
Yeah.
Little south. Thanks for having me, Roger. I do appreciate the invite.
Oh, we are thrilled to have you. And again, Andy and I have known Alan, and we have it's a friend. So we're just going to sit here and talk among friends, and hopefully at the end of this, we'll have something. I know you'll learn something from Alan as we go through, because he's a very interesting person, great background, a lot of intelligent stuff, and we're just happy he's joining us. So, Alan, again, welcome. Thank you for joining us, and let's go and see where we go. Let's see where we start and where we finish.
Roger, when I met you a few years back at the forums and we started doing the panel together, that became right away. You took me in and made me feel welcome. And that really was quite nice. I was new to the whole scene at the time, so I did appreciate that.
Yeah, we were all new to that. This Alan's talking about, and you've probably heard us reference it, where we do a practice management panel at the IRS forums. And Alan's been with us from I don't think you've missed a single one, have you? You've done them all. So,
you know me, once I get out there, I can't stop.
That's right. Once you agree to something, you're going to do it. So yeah, we've done 3 years of those, and I guess we'll do them next year if they have us back and they still do them. But I'm sure we'll talk about some upheaval at the IRS and the forums and our session, and everything, I guess, is up for examination as we move forward, given right now, as we speak, the government's shut down, and we don't even know when it'll open up.
Every time we do a podcast, we're like, and it's still shut down, but maybe by the time you listen to this, it won't be. And here we are again.
Well, it's kind of interesting. I do have one audit going.
Okay.
That the auditor is going to be one that kept the appointment. She's actually still working. You know, I went through all the other cases the first week. The auditors were, well, hopefully this isn't going to disturb us. We have 1 week that we're budgeted for, and we're going to work that week. And I've got one case in particular where the auditor, there's a mistake on the report, and had it corrected twice. There's still one more mistake he's got to correct, and now we're waiting for that to happen. My client's no hurry for that bill, but but I did tell them they needed to start making payments in the meantime, just stop the interest. But this case, this auditor, apparently she volunteered back at the last furlough to work anyways. And basically somebody had to go open the mail, which is good to know that the IRS does open the mail. What they actually do with it
after that,
but at least it's being opened. And because she's working and the manager is working, this is going to be an opportunity for both of them, because now she gets to get her annual review with the manager during this interview process for this one case.
Gotcha.
Yeah, which is a bonus for my client.
They're doing some. I mean, they're not completely closed. Obviously, they couldn't be, because there's things that go on. Somebody asked me the other day, said, well, do I really have to pay? I said, yeah, they're still collecting money. Trust me.
You're not that lucky.
I promise you that's still going on.
Whether they're paying refunds is up in the air, but they are collecting.
Yeah, they'll definitely take your money if you owe it.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's been interesting. I did get a couple of calls from people like, well, they're closed, they can't file returns. And oh no, he files still working. And I would certainly, anybody that paper filed a return, do not expect it to be processed anytime soon.
No. If you're waiting for a phone call.
Yeah, already warning us. Yeah. And so we'll see what happens.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, who knows? I don't even know they know, so I don't know how we would know. But we'll one day at a time.
But we do know we have somebody sort of in charge now,
Well,
I saw that.
yeah,
right?
we have a CEO, which we've never had before.
Well, I think nobody wants to be commissioner.
No.
They'll
So,
take the CEO title over the commissioner title.
well, with the CEO, they don't have to go through the congressional approval for that. Correct?
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Well, that's their position they're taking. I have seen some politicians questioning whether you can get around that by calling it the CEO, but so far so good.
Somebody's got to take that on. You know,
Yeah.
so be fun.
Yeah.
So, but
Well, tell us a little bit about how you got where you are. What if it sounds like, you've had, give us the brief career overview. Could you,
Yeah,
could you let us
you're
know?
you're like most people in this profession. You didn't start here. You did some other things, and I know a little bit about it. But share kind of how you got to where you are now with our listeners.
Well, like you said, Roger, I think there's very few of us in this industry that's woke up and said, I want to be a tax professional.
Right.
I've met maybe two people. I know a handful of accountants that woke up and wanted to be accountants. They went to school for that, obviously.
Right.
But, for me, I spent my first career in hospitality.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to the point where I didn't like people anymore. So I knew it was time to get out.
Right.
People get on your nerves. So you get to that point. But I got into taxes, 36 years now. My dad was an enrolled agent and retired now, obviously. He bought a practice. It was a little bit too much for him to handle it by himself. So he offered to my brother, my sister, and myself to come join him. I was actually on the other coast at the time and figured I'll give it a shot. I wanted to get into a regular life. That's what I thought at the time, because that's what everybody tells you, right? You got to get into a regular life. So that was my goal. I did a year and I really liked it. I did a year for the big block store and enjoyed what I did. Did all kinds of returns. Back then, we were actually using a pencil and paper, which was a lot different than now. Best way to learn. I encourage anybody that wants to know how to do a tax return, do their own, download the forms and fill them out by hand. Back then, Roger, you remember they used to have the numbers at the top of the form, so you knew how to write the numbers where the IRS wanted them. You couldn't put a loop in your O's or put a dash through your sevens. You had to write it just so there was the way they wanted to see it. Well, after doing a few hundred returns like that, I said, well, I could do this. And I went to California, and the rest is history. Became an EA in 93, and from there on out, just couldn't stop myself.
Hey, did you ever do a tax return by hand? You ever done a tax return by hand?
I did not. I have been fortunate enough to not have to go through that exercise, although I probably did in my master's program. But no, all software for me.
Yeah, and I agree with it. Everybody should have to do a tax return by hand for no other reason that we've become so dependent on tax software that we put a number in and it just takes it and moves it wherever it needs to go. And back when you did them by hand, if you didn't know where it went, it didn't get
wasn't
there.
going.
Yeah,
Right.
And it forced you to learn, which also made you easier, I think, to communicate with a client because I understood the whole process, not just, well, I put it in this software. What do I know where it went?
Well, you remember the wall of forms, Roger?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The back wall of the office was just little cubbies of forms. So you would make a list at your desk and what you would need, and you go back to the wall and you go, okay, I need one of these and one of these, one of these. But that's when taxes were simple.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't have 15 extra schedules for every time we turned around. But then again, we did depreciation by hand, which I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You had to be able to not only describe makers or double declining balance and straight line and some of the year's digits. I mean, all those crazy things. And you had to know how to actually calculate it and what was salvage value. And, God, it was.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, it was.
Are y'all having nightmares over there?
I'm questioning why the hell did I do it and why am I still doing it? But
but I'm going around the country talking, Roger, and the people, when I ask who did returns by hand and they raise their hand, most of them were the happier professionals in the sense that they remember doing it when it was, first of all, yes, it was a little simpler, but it was also we understood it a lot more than
Oh,
today.
you had to. Yeah, you had to.
Right?
But- No, I was going to say the one thing I learned that has helped me tremendously from those days is when you finished a return. Today we finish a return and somebody calls us up and says, "Oh, I forgot something," or "I need you." Well, let me tell you what. When that happened, when you did them by hand, it was a completely different discussion because today, oh, you forgot something. You just open up the system, put the numbers in, everything's done. Then, I've raced through forms. I literally had 1040s that I had to copy again because I had raced so many times that you couldn't read the numbers anymore. So you developed a whole strategy on making sure you had all the information and what was worthy of a change and what wasn't. It's like, and what you charged to do it again, because it was not just open the system up and type in a new number. So it was awful.
That first year, I had a woman walk in with 52 W-2s. Her husband worked out of a union hall and had 1 or 2 jobs a week. So my first question was, "Are you sure you have them all?" And she looked at me and she was very stern. She says, "Alan, I teach all the other women in the union hall how to keep track of this stuff. Every time he comes home from a new place, I make sure he brings their name, their address, their phone number. I have a book." And she had this book. She brought it out and she had a little check mark. Make sure she got the check, make sure she got the W-2, make sure she had a pay stub. Everything was right there, all laid out. She says, "Now I come in to see you." It's like, okay, I'm not going to argue with you. But yes, going back, can you imagine getting a corrected 1099 in March after you filed the tax
That
return?
would be awful.
No. Or no. Or all those people that have all those transactions now that, we can enter totals, and back then you had to enter
Each one.
each one of the Schedule D with all that. And God forbid they corrected one.
Oh, the worst nightmare would be crypto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doing that by hand. It's tough to do that. I wouldn't recommend anybody does that with a spreadsheet. There's services for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I remember telling people, you're better off letting the IRS catch this and send you a bill than for me to give you a bill to make sure they don't.
True.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
oh, well, we're tearing our war stories. So,
Yeah. Those are the fun times.
yeah, I guess.
So did you rather do the representation, or do you like to actually do the planning and the tax stuff?
I like to do a little bit of everything.
Okay.
Okay, I like to do the representation. I do quite a bit of that. Although my wife's been reminding me all the time, it's okay to say no once in a while on a case here or there. But I like to speak. I like to be on that stage. And as long as I'm on that stage, I know that I need to do a certain amount of prep work, a certain amount of rep work, just to make me relevant on that stage. Because anybody can get up there and teach out of the book.
Yeah.
But, and Roger, you said enough of those classes, and Amy, you too. You said these classes after a while, and all you get is Schnoozeville, because you're hearing wah, 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 back in the Charlie Brown days. And I try to bring a little bit more to my classes, and I feel that when I'm watching somebody else that's actually doing this stuff, they're much more entertaining.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more boring than a tax class, other than a tax publication.
Yeah. Reading tax stuff.
Okay.
What made you want to get into representation? I'm assuming you started like all of us did, doing tax returns. Was there something, or just the challenge of it, or did something lead you there?
It's my first audit. It was actually a friend of mine, and I did his tax return. He had an interesting situation. His wife had a daycare, and instead of doing the home office, so home daycare, by the hours, we did it by percentage, because what he actually did was converted the garage into a daycare center. It had its own entrance, it had a bathroom. Granted, you probably could get a little more use because of the kitchen, kind of area that she used. But for the most part, that garage, that was a daycare. And I knew when we filed the return, and everybody has that, I know I'm going to be audited. This return is going to be audited. honestly, we've all done it. And, out of the 9 audits of my own work that I represented, 8 of them I knew were going to be audited when I prepared those returns, and this is one of them. And I walked in and didn't know what I was doing. It didn't matter because I knew my client. And I realized how easy it was to go through that process. And the main thing was I was nice to the auditor, and the auditor was nice to me, because I could hear going on in the cubicle next to me, that going back and forth kind of thing.
Oh,
And right there, it told me that person, that representative or taxpayer, whoever it was going to have a problem. Where, I walked in there with knowing that I had what I needed to have, and I was able to present my case. And after that, it was like, okay, I can do this. And now I can see where this is money. And really, that in the end, it took my practice from a part-time practice where I was still in hospitality to a year-round practice. And, there's a lot of people out there that want to do that, necessarily want to have a year-round practice. There's a lot of us say, I'm good making money 3 months out of the year and calling it a day. But, a lot of us getting going, it's tough. You need to find that niche. And bookkeeping, a lot of people do bookkeeping. They don't like to do bookkeeping, but they do bookkeeping.
right.
Yeah.
I tried that. I didn't like to do bookkeeping. I mean, I'm all about numbers. Numbers don't lie. It's easy for me to do that stuff. The repetition was no fun.
I was about to say, do you run into the same auditors from time to time?
I'm on a first name basis with a lot of auditors,
Wow.
to a point where during the DRP, I was getting phone calls. They started in February. The first round of DRP, I got a phone call from an auditor that I worked with a couple dozen times, if not more, over the years. And she called me over and says, Alan, says, I got to tell you, I'm taking the DRP. I wanted to give you the heads up because I know that you and I had a great relationship over the years. And, that kind of thing, right on down to April 15th, where I use this term, my buddy on the dark side, because I've known Edward for, a good 20 years, 25 years even. We've worked together a long time ago. I had a few cases together, got along very well. He's now with LB&I. And he called me up on April 15th. I saw his number pop up, and I said, I answered the phone, Edward, do not tell me that you're taking the DRP. And his answer was, well, this would be a very short phone call.
Right.
He called me about a month and a half later and said, I wanted to go, they wouldn't let me because he was positioned with LB&I. So, there were some good ones, and a lot of the good ones. Fortunately, not all the, I don't want to say bad ones, but the ones that are not as easy to work with are still there, unfortunately.
I can see walking in the room being like, it's you again. Like,
I don't have to walk. I can look at the letterhead and I see, oh my gosh.
Right. I guess so.
You mentioned being friendly to people. I know one person, and I think you're right, by the way, that the best thing you can do is treat the auditor with the equal respect that you would expect to be treated and your client would expect to be treated. Because in theory, we're just trying to get to the right answer. I mean, it's not a game. We're not competing. But I know someone that every time that they would, because, auditors a lot of times would come to our offices to do these things. And he would always put them in a room with no heat or no air conditioning, just make it miserable. In theory, because they would be so miserable, they wouldn't stay as long.
Oh, that's one
That
way.
didn't work.
Well, I'll give you a hint to do this. I have a hard, fast rule in my office. I don't care what time you want to start, but at noon I break for lunch. And I close the office and I leave. You're welcome to do whatever you want. You want to eat lunch you want to eat your lunch while you're working, you can do that in the lobby. You can do that in your car, but I'm locking the office.
You're not doing it here.
Not doing it here. And for the most part, they learn after the first time to get here early because they leave at noon. And then they're gone for the day. Everybody wins.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. But no, I make them very comfortable. I've got a nice space here. I put them in a big conference table and let them stretch out and have, I even offer them a spare monitor if they want. They don't take me up on it, but I offer it to them. So I want them.
ultimately you're probably going to get, and we'll get into a little bit more about how you transition from tax prep to representation, but you end up at some point, there's going to be a time that the two of you are going to have to negotiate something, or get them to agree to something that's close to maybe not perfect. And you're going to get a lot more agreements if you get along with someone than if you're adversarial with them. So I never understood it, but yeah, in fact, I think he even, how when coffee sits in a pot for a while, how old it gets, he would never make new coffee. He'd just leave the bad stuff in there. And everybody in the office knew not to go drink it, but the auditor would. I'm just like, oh, come on, man. This is
That's
it's
Oh, the
awful.
smell.
yeah,
So,
that's true.
yeah.
Yeah. It's, I don't see, I remind the auditors, there's the 80-20 rule, and we live with that. But again, it's not about me against them. No, I do run into them, and right now we've got a handful that I'm working with that are young and new,
Mhm.
and they feel they have something to prove. But I just bite my tongue
Yeah.
and remind them that we're here for the same thing, to make sure the return's substantially correct.
Right. Talk a little bit about I think most of our listeners are in the tax prep business, and probably their representation is probably how you started, maybe limited to a couple of notices they get or something, or maybe an audit. I mean, aren't there skills you need beyond knowing how to prepare a tax return? To me is one skill. Knowing how to represent somebody before the IRS, yes, it's taxes, but it's a different knowledge and different skills. Am I right when I tell that to somebody?
Yes and no. Okay, it is a different knowledge and skill, in that you've got to remember what tax year you're working in.
Right.
Especially when we have a big change.
Uh-huh.
We're dealing with, after TCJA as an example, I'm still dealing with unreimbursed employee business audits.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you've got this change going on where you're learning today's tax law and dealing with yesterday's tax law, which we're going through again right now
Right
to
now.
some extent. Now,
Right.
fortunately, there's a lot of changes, but a lot of the changes are not as drastic as they were with TCJA because
Right.
we're already used to it. So you do have that skill level. The other thing is you have to learn. One thing I stress when I'm speaking, especially, or talking to anybody that says I want to get into representation, I'm a big one in believing in staying in your lane. Pick a direction, because you really have two types of representation. You have examination and collections.
Right.
And, there's people that really love collection work, and there's people that really love examination work. And I learned that I love examination work, but collection work, I'll leave to somebody else. The only time I get involved with collection work is when my client doesn't owe the money. They just need somebody to figure out why and explain it to the IRS. And again, that's a special niche in itself.
Mm.
But, collection work it's a tough one to deal with. And that's definitely a specialty. Examination work, when you think about it, you're dealing with a tax return that you may have prepared or somebody else prepared, but the tax law is a tax law, and it's a matter of what do you need to support it.
Right.
And this morning I had an email with a client he says, well, I don't have any receipts. I've got my credit cards and my bank account. Well, that's great. It'll tell me who you paid and how much you paid them, but it doesn't tell me what it was for. No, and I have no problem in an audit with an auditor saying it's Office Depot rather, and it's under $100. It's office supplies. People aren't going to go there to go grocery shopping, kind of thing. But at Costco, it doesn't matter what the expense is. And and when you get into some other Best Buys or places like that, it could be anything. So yes, it can be office, but it also can be personal. So you need to have that much more. Unfortunately, the taxpayer doesn't always know that. And being able to explain that's the other challenge. But when you get into collections, I mean, that's a niche in itself. I mean, you have to understand all of the rules behind what the IRS will accept versus what the taxpayer pays out as for expenses, as an example.
Yeah. And I think you've articulated better than I did. I think what I was trying to say is collection is something totally different. I mean, that that's something that just doing a tax return doesn't necessarily teach you and help you understand the options for payment, your rights to offer less, offers and compromise, all the different installment agreements, and when is it automatic and when do you have to, and just straight out negotiating because your client doesn't have the money, and what are the rights and things like that. So yeah, I think that's where it's really different. That, I mean, Annie, we know people that do it, but
I know it's too emotional for me. Like the fighting and I don't know. I feel like I'm going through like a bad divorce or something when I'm trying to like negotiate. What they can pay, what they can afford, what will they accept, what is the timeline, all of that. But I could see. I think I would enjoy the representation part, especially for those clients that you really know. You understand their business, you understand how they're operating, how their books work. That to me would be like, no, we're good. And the 80/20 rule applies, but like, we're good. We did our due diligence. We have our support. We believe the return's accurate. Everybody makes mistakes, but
Well, that's all well and good, Andy, when you work with somebody that you know and you
yeah,
dealt with, but those returns aren't the ones that are being audited because you did a good job. It's the ones
it's just
that,
clear.
a lot of where most of what I deal with has been good 15 years since I've dealt with my own work representing. What I deal with is a lot of self-prepared or, a professional prepared that is just really bad.
Hmm.
yeah,
Right now, I've got 4 cases in San Francisco that a ghost preparer,
Okay.
and they charge the taxpayer 20% of the refunds.
Okay.
Okay, which got them, we're $20,000 plus refunds, federal, forget the state, about another 10 from the state. And these returns were so bad that after I got the first one, then the second one that came across my desk, as soon as I looked at the return, I said, I know who your preparer was. I said, what do you mean? I said, the preparer was so-and-so. Well, how do you know? I said, because A, it signed self-prepared at the bottom.
Hmm.
And B, I'm representing somebody else with a similarly bad return. Within a week, 2 more cases came into my office.
At least the bad preparer is consistent. I mean, he's making the same mistakes on every return that you get.
Well,
yeah,
consistent or otherwise, it was like,
Yeah.
right now, what I'm trying to do, unfortunately, with the IRS shutdown, it's not happening, but, I'm trying to get CI to get involved because OPR and RPO really can't do anything in these situations.
right.
I did get the state of California involved.
Are you dealing with many of the credit problems now, from employee retention to, uh, tribal credits and conservation easements? Or are you seeing much of that right now? I know those are going on and there's some big money involved, but is it getting to you, those kind of cases?
The ERC stuff that's coming across my desk has really been more in the collection side of things,
Mm.
Okay.
in the sense that the taxpayer was banking on the ERC, things were not applied correctly, so their payments were made, they weren't associated properly. I had a couple of those kind of cases. Right now, I've got one case where I don't think the taxpayer was entitled to the ERC. The bookkeeper prepared the ERCs for them based on the rules as they originally were written, but as the rules changed, they were no
Oh.
longer entitled. The taxpayer has a small tax liability based on this not being assessed properly. I told her, suggest to your client, I can't. My thought to you would tell your client, pay this money and either amend those returns and pay back to CRC, which is going to cost them 6 figures,
Right.
Oh.
or keep your fingers crossed. But pay the small amount due and get the IRS stop looking in this direction, because based on the way the rule changed, he's not entitled. Well, I shouldn't say the rule changed. The rule got clarified.
Right.
Because, in the government's infinite wisdom, Congress likes to do a lot of good, but they don't always think it all the way through.
No,
Mhm.
no.
And then
The
IRS
intentions were good, but the rollout didn't go so well.
right.
Yeah.
The IRS is forced to implement something that they don't fully understand themselves, and then more clarification that comes about, things change.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing right now is captive insurance.
Explain that to everybody, because I'm not sure everybody knows what that
Oh,
is.
this is, I'm not seeing it personally. I'd love to get one of these cases, but these are pretty large numbers. Again, micro captive insurance is where you self-insure through a vendor of some sort.
Right.
And they're similar to the conservation easements. Not all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
Right.
And people feel that they can take advantage of these, and they are being looked at very strongly.
Mm.
Yeah.
So if your client comes in and wants to talk about a micro captive insurance and you fully don't understand it, don't touch it. Find somewhere that does understand it and make sure that they're doing everything they're supposed to do. Similarly to the cost segregation studies when they first rolled it.
Yeah, I think the one thing that maybe saves us in some of these credit areas is the IRS is looking at some really big dollar claims that I won't speak for Alan, but our clients typically aren't buying into investments of $2 million conservation easement deduction and things like that, But day after day, you read court cases where people have just, they buy a piece of land for 200,000 and 30 days later they say it's worth 200 million,
Right.
and it's like, oh, come on. You had to
Something's
know.
not right.
Yeah. And you're surprised that they're looking at it. I mean, there's big money there.
Mhm.
And
Well, it was funny. I don't know if you're familiar with Ed Zollers, CPA
Yeah.
of Arizona.
Yeah.
I was listening to one of his podcasts, and he was talking about how if your client comes in and says, an attorney says this is okay, and they bring in a phone book. For those of you who remember, phone books used to be like this thick. You bring in a phone book of paperwork.
That's another thing
verifies
a
it.
lot of people don't remember. Doing tax returns by hand in phone books.
Yeah, updating myself again. But he was saying, unless you are willing to spend the time to go through that, analyze it, read it, and really understand it, don't advise on it.
Yeah.
And it
makes a whole lot of sense. It
Yeah.
does.
If it looks too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah. Generally speaking.
What would you tell somebody that wanted to get into representation work that's not in it now? Where would you go? How would you advise them to learn what they need to learn? How to go about doing it? I mean, how to even price for the work? I mean, you do it by the hour? Do you set fees? I mean, I'll ask the question knowing the answer. Do you charge a percentage of the results? Where does somebody go that right now is just basically doing prep work, but they want to expand their business into more representation? What would you advise them to do?
Well, not everybody's willing to jump in feet first. And if you are willing to jump in feet first, take one case at a time.
Yeah.
And don't worry about a mistake is the second time. Because we get a chance to learn. The first time you learn. If you didn't learn, the second time you did, it's a mistake. Now, there's programs out there. And of course, NAEA, I'm involved with NAEA for many years. I was chair of education. NAEA has a program, the National Tax Practice Institute. It's been around for about 40 some years now. Taught by people, it's a 3-level fellowship program, just in representation, taught by people in the field doing the work. This is not taught out of a book. This is real world. As a matter of fact, at the end of October, we're doing level 1 webinar live online.
Oh.
And I'll be doing the audit classes on that, and I'll be telling stories about what I'm doing in my office this week. So it's really going on and how it's being handled. So it's that kind of thing. There's other programs out there as well and there's people out there that sell a lot of good, and there's people out there that sell a lot of talk.
Mhm.
Yep.
So I would encourage you to, if you want to get into this, find somebody that's doing it and mentor with them. Maybe start with if you want to get into collection work, there's a lot of big collection companies out there. There's a lot of big names that do very good work. There's a lot of big names that maybe not so much, do good work.
Well, yeah.
Proceed with caution. We
Yeah.
got it.
Fortunately, a few of those have been weeded out, but you can go and find work with them. They're always looking to hire. And if
Yeah.
you find work with somebody like that, great. For examination work, there's companies out there that sell audit memberships or audit protection plans. It could be the big box stores. It could be, something that goes through, I think, like legal, what do they call that? Prepaid legal.
Oh yeah, prepaid. Yeah,
I believe they have that also. They're always looking for people. So that's a stepping stone. Look for a way to get in so that you could get a feel for it. Plus, they've already got systems in place.
Yeah.
I was listening to one not too long ago. They reached out to me and they said, well, but you have to work for us. Because all our stuff's proprietary.
Yeah,
It's like, well,
they didn't
if you're
get your
looking at one cases, it's one thing, but I'm not going to, I don't work. I can't work for anybody anymore. It's too long.
Do the NAEA courses deal with both the audit side and the collection side?
The whole gamut.
Everything.
Yeah,
Okay.
gamut. And appeals, there's another niche right there.
Right. Appeal, knowing how the appeals process works and
Exactly.
when to ask for it and what to expect and all that sort of stuff. And yep. Yeah. Interesting.
I know you've dabbled in so many different things.
Well, I don't sit still very well, and I like to learn. So
there you go.
Yeah, I think that's one good trait. If you're going to be in this business, you really need to be inspired to learn and to do better. Because if you it's not in your control that things change, and if you're not willing to change with them, you're going to be outdated pretty quickly.
Well, I've gone on a stage many a time, Roger, and said that I've been doing this for over 30 years, and I'll be the first to admit I know nothing about taxes.
That's how you start.
As long as I think I figured it out, I'll quit. I'll stop learning. I don't want to learn anymore. So that's that's the way I've got to be.
I've heard him say that in groups, so he is not lying. I've heard him make that statement many times, and it's true. I mean, if we know something, we only know what it is today. We don't have any idea what it could be tomorrow.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So how did you get into tax talk today?
Well, there's a fun story. The NAEA puts the panelists for Tax Talk. And years ago, we used to be, before the dark times, I should say.
Yeah,
we were going to DC in a studio and do the shows. So I was invited to be a panelist, I think 3 or 4 times over the maybe 4 years or so prior to me becoming the moderator. And then the owner of Tax Talk at the time decided it was time for her to retire. And the moderator, who had been there since the beginning, also decided he wasn't retired.
Oh.
So I get an email from the owner, Beth, and she said, "Do I know anybody? I mean, that would be a good moderator." So I responded with an email to her, "Can we have a conversation?" So we set up the call, and I said to her, "Would you consider me?" And she said, "That's why I sent you the email. I was kind of hoping that would be a response."
Yeah.
And here we are, 2019. So 6 years later, I'm moderator of Tax Talk today, and I'm loving every minute of it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm surprised we didn't cross paths, because I remember when it was in the studio in DC, the moderator then was Les Whitmer. He was from Atlanta, so many times when I got invited 2 or 3 times, you got invited 2 or 3 times, and yet we never got invited at the same time. A lot of times I'd find myself on the plane with Les.
I was going to say, we would share a cab back to the airport, but I was going in a different direction at that point. So,
and Les was big into golf, and he was also working with the Golf Channel. So we had that in common. He was an interesting guy. And then COVID hit, and I kind of lost track with Tax Talk today. And next thing I look up, and there's Alan.
Well, Roger, that reminds me, I've got a class in mind for you this year.
Okay,
we're doing it, and don't take this personally.
Uh-oh.
But I think it'll be right up your alley. And basically, it's the older taxpayer, retirement, and that kind of stuff. Conversation. I think you'd have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, because I fit into that definition. So I would be talking about real life experiences more than anything.
And I was thinking balancing you off with somebody young. we'll see what I can pull off here.
Well, that won't be hard to find somebody younger than me to bounce it off. It would be much harder to find somebody older than me. So, but yeah, so I'm assuming you enjoy doing what you're doing. It's all virtual now, right?
Yeah.
The studio in DC is not there anymore.
Yes.
I miss the makeup and the test. It was like going on a TV. You had TV cameras, and you had to put the makeup on, and you sat there. And I remember one of the cameramen was also from Georgia, and when he wasn't doing Tax Talk Today, he was filming NFL and college football.
Oh,
So
cool.
Interesting.
so he was a camera guy so we got along good. But yeah, it was interesting dynamic when you're sitting on it's not done live, is it? You're filming. I mean, you're recording it. It's not live, right?
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we put it out. We do record. We put it out live.
Yeah.
So we'll answer questions live during the show.
Oh, okay. All right. Because I remember that was the interesting thing. Because I mean, you were literally sitting there with people you didn't know, but you knew less, but you didn't know the other 3 or 4 people there, and you were on camera. And when somebody would say something, and you're going, "I don't agree with that," or "That's wrong," trying to not make it known to everybody that. And you did the one thing. I mean, I'm telling stories. You did this too. You did a whole show before the show to kind of test everything. And the day before, you came in and you traded ideas and you told everybody what you were going to say. And when we did the rehearsal, one of the panelists basically stole everything I was going to say that he heard me say the day before.
That's usually the case. Interestingly, that happens all the time. But that also happened to me on the panel at the IRS forums. More than once. But that does happen. And even though we're recording it, that still happens. We'll catch something. It's like, I heard that, but I'm not sure. Let's go back and revisit that question again, and let's make sure we get this thing right. Being live, you never know what's going to happen. And I remember having one panelist just get up there and just freeze.
Yeah. Well, I remember telling this guy, because I knew exactly what he said because I said it first and we did the rehearsal. So, then you have a break in between the rehearsal and the live show where they bring in lunch and all that sort of stuff. So we're just sitting there at lunch and I just looked across from him and I said, I want to tell you something. When we do this live, you do what you just did this morning and take everything I said. That cup of water on the table, I'm pouring it over your head.
Making friends, Roger. You sure know how to do it.
So he talked about something else.
Yeah, good think.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a good show though. It's great. If you don't listen to it, you need to, or don't subscribe to it. It's a subscription, right? You can actually subscribe to it, and it's CPE. Let's don't forget. Obviously, you can get CPE.
Right now, we have our special before the end of the year. You sign up for the next 12 months. I believe it's a 20% discount on the CE package.
Oh, nice.
And this month's show, the October show, is on virtual currency. Great show. I had Ty, and she is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. When it comes to crypto type of stuff, that's what she does, and it's all she breathes and stuff. And I was in awe. Just let her talk. I was in awe of her knowledge of this stuff. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And next month, if you haven't got your ethics yet, and you can buy a CE package just the 2 CEs that you need, Sharon Frisk is going to be joining us.
Yeah, I saw that. I looked through the schedule. I saw Sharon. That'll be great. Yeah.
So it should be fun. It should be a fun show.
I think I have ethics, but I don't think I have my ethics hours. So
there you go. I'll be looking for you.
Yeah.
I might even. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Depends on if they're open or not. But OPR wanted to introduce themselves again, so I might still have somebody from OPR on the show as well.
Are you still able to get IRS guests have you done a show during the shutdown? I mean, is that an issue for
during the shutdown? No, that they won't get. As a matter of fact, my first show as the moderator was 19, and what do we have then? But the shutdown. And at the last minute, there was no IRS, and I had to kind of wing it with Dave and Mary Mellon, which were great. They're always great to have on the update show, and I think I also had Claudia Hill, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
but it was quite entertaining. You have to be flexible. You have to reflect. My July show we had to postpone till August because in July we did a credit show, and what happened? But the bill came out in the middle of the month and screwed up that episode. So my IRS person couldn't be on.
Yeah. Well, that's the beauty of and the challenge of live events is you got to be flexible and you got to just do what it takes.
Yeah.
So you do a good job. You do a good job. It's a good show. I highly recommend it to people who are looking for ways. There's so many ways. I mean, like you can get a CPE credit for listening to this.
Right.
You get CPE for going to Tax Talk Today. There's so many ways now that you can get your credits that, mix it up a little bit. You don't have to, like you said, you don't have to go sit in a classroom, watch half the people sleep while you're supposedly learning.
Well, a lot of people don't realize that Tax Talk Today was started by the IRS.
Yeah.
They're the one that branded the show and they wanted to get their message out. And now to make what gives us a little difference is that we're conversational. This isn't a lecture. This is not, a typical CE class. I ask a question, I get the answers. You never know what's going to be said, which makes it that much more fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interactive. It's always better than being lectured to.
Yeah.
You mentioned teaching. Annie, you've seen him, at the forums.
I've seen you at the forums, yeah.
And one thing you can always count on when you go to the IRS forums, they're great events and you should go to them, but the classes put on by the Allens of the world are much better than put on by the others, let's just say, because they're going to be more interactive. They're going to be there. But you must love teaching because you do so much of it. How'd you get into it and what kind of makes you happy about teaching?
Yeah, I was never bashful. You might not have noticed that about me.
Yeah, okay. No, I've never known.
and I always enjoy the stage. So I got into teaching because to me, if you want to learn something, you have to teach. It takes me a good 8 to 10 hours of writing and research and writing rather to put 1 hour of education together. You can't learn it any better than a teacher because you can't get up in front and tax short of Japan. Tax professionals will call you out in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
They think that if they don't agree with what you have to say. Yeah. And I say short of Japan because in Japan, I got an opportunity to speak to the Japanese Society of Enrolled Agents a couple of times. And there, everything you said was cold. And I asked them, why don't you ever say anything? And they said, because the teacher's always right. That's the way we're taught. And it's like, well, the teacher's not always right. He says, but we're never going to let you know that. So, but, in the real world, that's not the reality. And you get out there and you have to do it. Now, when I wanted to get myself started, I started my local chapter. Lunch meetings, the dinner meetings, those kind of things. And then from there, I just kept on going until I got to the stage. But it takes a while.
Yeah.
It takes polish.
And you got to feel comfortable getting up there. So, and even doing this, even though it's not live and there's not staring out at the audience. I mean, I know, Annie, you speak for yourself, but you gain a little higher degree of confidence in yourself. And you're right. You got to know something before you bring it up. You'd be kind of stupid to bring up something you didn't know what you were talking about. But I've seen it done.
I don't. Sorry, I don't like to watch myself after. Like, I don't like to watch myself the recording or the after show. But I enjoy doing the podcasts.
Yeah.
So
Annie's somebody you need to get on Tax Talk Today. She'd be great on some of those things.
I'd love to.
She's she leads up our tax team, so she knows what she's talking about. So, get her on the show.
We will most definitely have to do that.
Yeah,
definitely have to do that. Always looking for new faces, more people.
Right.
Well, it brings more perspective to the conversation.
Of course.
Right. Yeah, of course it does. Of course it does. We're about to run out of time. What else do we need to talk about? Annie, you got anything we need to talk about? Have you missed anything? We could talk to Alan for another 2 hours. We may have to turn the recording off. But
no, I mean, this has been great. I love to hear about all your achievements and where you're going and what your passions are. I'm jealous of all your big projects and wins and staying in the know and always wanting to learn more and always wanting to teach others. Your ambition's fantastic. I love it.
Well, that's quite flattering, Annie. I do appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm going to ask you this like you're a rock star, which I guess in our profession you are. Where are you performing after, besides Tax Talk today? If someone wants to take advantage of your knowledge and hear you speak, are you, I think you've told me you've got some places you're talking in the future.
Well, next month I'll be at my local chapter's luncheon in San Jose, California, doing a ethics class.
Okay.
And I mentioned NTPI online webinar going on at the end of October. And starting in November, going mid-November through the end of January, I'll be speaking for Spadell Publishing out of Southern California. Updates. It is time for the update season.
Right.
We do quite a few webinars throughout the year, and as well as some, I think we're going to be non-live locations as well. So then go to caltax.com and check that out. Great organization, a lot of good education. If you need California stuff, they're the place
to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're the place to go. But it's federal and California as far as the updates are concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So not hard to find.
Not hard to find.
Well, and one thing I can promise you, you can find Alan and his lovely wife, Debbie, every day at 5:00 enjoying a martini too.
That's right. In the day, that's what we do.
That's a great way to end the day.
Yeah.
Well, at 5:15, if I get home a little late, we have to go for our walk first.
Oh, okay. All right. So maybe 5:15. And if you ever want to go out to dinner, his history in the hospitality business will come to visible when you go out to dinner with Alan and Debbie. And we've had a pleasure to have him join us a couple of times. This has been great, Alan. Thank you for doing this. And,
thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
It's always great to bring in guests and have someone with great experience and diversity of skills. And I hope everybody enjoyed this one. This has been great. Annie, any final thoughts about this? I mean, I guess we got to start thinking now. We're past October 15th. We got to start digging into the what are we calling it now? The big beautiful bill, or what did you say when you interviewed
OB3?
The big beautiful Billy, or what?
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah.
When I got to interview Billy Long, he made a point to let me know that why was left off. One big beautiful Billy act, not the one Bill.
Okay. Well, there you go. Never made it long enough for that to be true, though.
Yeah. Exactly.
So be it.
No, hopefully we'll have some updates. Hopefully the government will open up and we'll get some guidance, additional information about, how tax season is going to kick off. But until then, we just wait.
Yep.
Most important thing to do right now, folks, is to plan what you're going to be doing on April 16th and make sure that all your plans are in place so that you know what's going to happen.
That's right. The most important day of tax season is April 16th.
I like that idea.
All right. Well, Alan, again, thank you so much. I hope our paths cross sooner than later. Always great to spend time with Alan, both here and in person. And Annie, always with you. It's always great to have you. And thank you for the listeners, because if you guys don't listen, we won't be here long. So thank you for joining us. And thanks again to Alan. Thanks to all of you. If you enjoyed this, tell your friends about it. And we'll be back soon with another Federal Tax Update podcast. So long, everyone.